What's going on, crazy world? Welcome to another episode of the Black Sheep Perspective. I was just completely blessed like I never have been by my guest today. My guest today is an entrepreneur, an owner of an amazing food spot that all of Miami knows of, where they've gotten a lot of credibility. They've been on the news. They've been featured on different programs. Him and his partner have even competed in one of Guy Fieri's shows, and he's just an amazing guy to the extent that he came over here. He insisted, because I haven't been able to visit the restaurant yet, he insisted that he give me the experience. And you guys are going to see when I post the pictures and I'll post some video clips. He came right here to this kitchenette that I have over here in the studios and just made me the most amazing plate of food. We're going to go into those details. But Joaquin, better known as Keno Ortiz, welcome to the podcast, brother. I really appreciate you.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
So I came across Joaquin and his business, which is, we're going to get into details, called The Jealous Fork, when right before COVID.
Yeah.
Right before COVID hit, you guys had an amazing food truck that was parked right down the street. You were in between my job at the time, which was the UFC gym, and my house.
Okay.
Perfect spot. And I happened to come across, I'm like, you know what? These guys are here and they got this big ass line and this great energy of people there. What is this about? I never go to food trucks. Went over there, saw what you had, tasted the amazing ordeal, and that eventually worked its way. Years later, I've been following you, been following your business. You now have a brick and mortar. You're now about to do a second one. I'm like, this guy's got a story. This all happened within 4 years, 5 years. I got to know the story, and that's what brought us here today, man. So I'm really glad that you blessed me with your presence, bro, and you really outshine every guest I've had beforehand, because no one's ever came over here and cooked for me, and that was dope, bro. And we've been chopping it up, having a good time, getting to know each other. So I would like to tell people, from the beginning, man. Let's go a little bit from the beginning. You're not originally from Miami.
No, originally from Los Angeles, California.
Okay, and parents, where are they from? How was that? What got you from there to here? What got you into the food industry?
Of course. So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. Hippie birth, born at home, 100% natural. And grew up kind of like a hippie, like we made our own granola, my mom was a wonderful mom. I had dyslexia. And so my mom really took that to heart and helped me a lot as I kind of grew up and helping me learn about myself and educate myself, because I learn differently than most people. There's all different types of dyslexias, but I learn different than most. So I was unfortunately not good at school. Okay. I was not great at school. I passed high school by like the skin of my teeth. I didn't take my SATs. I had no direction. I just didn't know what I was doing in the world. And so one day, I'm with my mom in California at this restaurant called, what was it called? Bravo Cucino on 3rd Street Promenade. And it's an open kitchen. And I'm watching this cook who puts this pan on the stove and throws the oil in there and throws the garlic and the shallots, and he starts sauteing it, and he grabs a handful of mussels and he throws the mussels into the pan. I hear each mussel bing, 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 bing fall into the pan. He grabs some white wine. He pours the white wine on it. He sautés it. Flames jump up, and I'm like, Mom, I think I want to go to culinary school. I think I want to be a cook. And she's like, oh, thank God. Because prior to that, I wasn't really on the
directed path, right?
Best path. Unfortunately, some of my friends are no longer here, due to some not great life choices and a rough upbringing. So we don't come from money, okay. My mom was a teacher. And so she was very grateful that we made that decision, or I made that decision to go to culinary school. The best culinary school in the country was New York, but I'm not a cold weather person. I like the fun and the sun in California. And so one of the top in the countries is Johnson & Wales here in Miami. Unfortunately, it's closed now, but it was at the time. So Johnson & Wales in Miami, went to school there. And once I got to culinary school, I did really well. And I think that because I understood it better, the math in regular school, you're working like geography, algebra and geometry and stuff like this. Too many letters in that. That's not math. That's
right.
English,
Yeah.
And so that didn't work for me. But when you go to business math, when you go to cost divided by amount, business math, you buy a case of wine. It's $180. There's 12 bottles. 180 divided by 12. What's your bottle cost? Okay, now what do you want to sell that for a 33% markup? That simple add, subtract, multiply, divide math, that works for me. I get that. So I actually did really well in culinary school. And after culinary school, I got lucky enough to work for an amazing chef named David Braca, who currently owns a restaurant here in Miami called the River Oyster Bar in Brickell.
Okay, yeah, very popular.
At the time, he actually had a restaurant named Jake's in South Miami. So coming right out of culinary, excuse me. So coming right out of culinary school, I went to work with him, and it was a great experience. He's like a hard-nosed New Yorker, you know, kind of guy. Really, like a great mentor. And so,
was he tough on you?
yeah, I come from the old school.
Gordon Ramsay like shit?
Yeah, I come from I'm trying not to throw too many of the chefs I've worked with under the bus, but like nowadays cooks and nowadays restaurants are a lot different than like
Right.
the early 2000s restaurants,
Yeah.
which I would assume are a lot different than like the 80s and the 90s restaurants.
Of course.
So we've definitely gotten kinder.
Softer.
Like you say it, we've definitely gotten softer, bro. So, he was hard-nosed. You know, I brought a stack of books. You know, Keno, if you want to learn, you want to be a great chef, you need to be a student. You need to always study. So, okay, I got it. I go to the library. I get a bunch of books. I bring them in, like pasta, sauces, Chinese food. You know, and he's like, these books are all shit. These books are shit. You're not going to learn anything from there that you haven't learned in culinary school. Like, what is innovative about those books? What are you really learning beyond what you should have already learned in culinary school? You know, go get something avant-garde. Go get something that pushes the boundaries of culinary. And he said it in a much meaner way, but
yeah, but he was challenging you to go past the little bookworm stuff.
correct. And so that was like this, light bulb moment. Like, okay, if I want to be great, I can't seek mediocrity. I can't
Right.
seek the norm. I have to go above and beyond. So after I
And that's something that definitely people want to keep in mind, and regardless of what they're chasing in their careers. But yeah, you can't chase mediocrity.
Yeah, it's easy. We can wake up and roll out of bed and you're mediocre.
Right.
You just can go in and clock into your job and you're average. You know, like everybody can be mediocre. Everybody can be
Right,
average.
right.
It's so easy. You just do nothing. You just be yourself. And if you want to be great, if you want to be excellent, you have to make the effort. Like I tell my staff at work, excellence is always the harder path. Greatness is always the more difficult choice. But you have to choose it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't consciously choose excellence, you don't consciously choose, greatness, you're just going to go right into mediocrity.
And it's so fucking. I know it's got to be a pain in the ass to tell that to a bunch of softies, but we'll come back to that. So okay, so you're picking out. He's telling you to get creative and find some.
Like I worked with him for a little while, and then after that, I said, okay, I want to work at the best restaurant in Miami. What is the best chef? What is the best restaurant in Miami? And at the time, it was a chef named Norman Van Aken, who had a phenomenal restaurant in Coral Gables called Norman's. He was a James Beard Best Chef United States, James Beard Best Chef Southeast. Like this was before Michelin came to Florida.
Okay.
And so the highest awards you could win were from James Beard. And so I went and interviewed at Norman's, and I got the job. And so that was my.
And you're helping, and so this is part of the experience, that you're telling us that eventually led to you, becoming a solo entrepreneur or partner entrepreneur. But when you got hired these positions, you're not sous chefing, you're managing, right? You're doing different.
So great question. So I always, in every single one of my roles, tried to be as balanced in the kitchen as I was in the front of the house. Like front of the house, back of the house. Like back of the house refers to kitchen, front of the house refers to dining room.
Right.
So it was very important to me in balance to build my brand, to build my kind of repertoire, my stock, my Keno stock. I'm more valuable if I can cook in the kitchen and work in the dining room.
Right.
If I can only work wine, or if I can only work one station in the kitchen, well, I'm just less valuable. I'm not going to be able to negotiate my pay as well. But if I'm like, hey, put me on the line, and I got it. Oh, put me in the dining room selling wine, I got it. Put me at the host stand, I got it. Put me in the dish room, I got it. If I'm willing to do all of that.
And I also think that it helps if you're hoping that in the future you're going to be your own, owner of a restaurant, food spot, food truck, whatever it is. Working such different positions, you learn about them. You know what they entail. You know what the grind is. You know what to expect. You know what somebody should get paid. Things of that nature. So aside from building your resume, obviously, because you got a great story, you and your partner, and we keep we're building our way to how successful you've been. But I want to make sure that people watching that they get inspired, but they also got to know the realism behind the little details of what you did. You didn't just go from management to owner, you work different positions.
It's totem pole. Like I've probably washed dishes for cumulative in my life in like 10 weeks of hours of washing dishes. Like I've washed so many dishes. And you have to be humble. You have to realize when you need to fill, like a great manager, a great owner is like a Swiss Army knife. You know, like you just you, I
Right,
need this
right.
tool. Like
It's a
you
good way
just-
of putting
you
it,
just
yeah.
do it. You know, and so after working for Norman for 5 years, my next step was like, okay, well, I want to work at the best restaurant I can possibly find. And so I got a headhunter, and my headhunter got me a phenomenal job with a chef named David Bouley, who's a 2 Michelin star chef out of New York. And so I worked with him for 2 years, and he was just amazing. Like, you learn so much at that level. It's militant, you know, like in order to receive a star, even one, again, this is kind of more old school. I have new opinions of Michelin in the recent years.
Giving it away a little bit too easy now.
Yeah, dude, they're giving it out like candy. It's marketing. They're like, here you go.
course.
Everyone gets a star. You
Yeah.
get a bib gourmand. You get
Yeah.
a recognition. Like, no, come on, like keep the standard. You know, keep
Got
this. It's just so
saturated.
diluted.
Yeah.
It's so diluted. But you know, working with him was phenomenal. And then after that, I knew like, okay, it was time for me to open my own restaurant. So at 28, I partnered with some guys from the Segafredo group, and we opened up Segafredo in South Miami. And I worked there and did that for about.
And Segafredo is an Italian restaurant?
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, Segafredo is an Italian cafe style thing. The most popular Segafredo was either Segafredo Brickell. Back in the day, it was like the spot to go hang out at, or Segafredo Lincoln Road. It was a branding license, so it was not like a franchise, but for lack of like legal descriptions, franchise. Okay. So you could just buy in. You were able to use their brand. You were able to use their their IP and everything like that, and go through that process, and then you could build your Segafredo.
So that was your first official. You are the dog. You're the one running it. You're the owner. Partnered through, I guess, investments or whatever.
Correct. And my main business partner, him and I broke up, and I exited that relationship. And I think that was like the first time that I realized that a business relationship is identical to a sexual, intimate relationship.
Yes.
It really is. Like they call it corporate divorce for a reason. You need to think.
By the way, guys, that doesn't mean sleep with your business partner. Get your head out the gutter, you fuckers. Come on now. But yes, an actual real relationship, as in the ups, the downs, and the communications and everything like that.
Everything about that, like you don't know if that intimacy between you and your actual like intimate partner is good until you've dated for a few months.
Right.
You don't get that luxury as business partners. You kind of like, well, sometimes you could have already worked together in some capacity.
Right, yeah.
But this gentleman and I, we never worked together. He was a patron of a couple of my other restaurants that I was managing and whatnot over the years. And so he approached me like, hey, I got this great opportunity. Here it is. You can buy in. Let's get it. And yeah. And then I realized that like when you don't have experience in hospitality, it can be a very shocking industry to come into, and you need to know the business. And if you don't know the business, it will eat you alive. I mean, 90% failure rate in the first year. So like it can be
90% failure rate in the first year. And this is for all businesses, or this for restaurants? Hospitality.
Restaurants.
Okay. That needs to be duly noted by people out there.
Yeah. Like it's great to get into it because this is what happens. And I've done so much consulting over the years. You got a retired dentist. He's been looking inside people's mouths his whole life. He's been saving. He's been conservative with his money. And now he's like 60. He's like, I still got more in me. I retired a little early. I got a nice little nugget saved.
Right.
I think I'd like to open up a bar. I always sit at the bars. I'm always drinking at the bars. Why don't I be the one owning it? The bars are always packed. Why isn't that money coming in my pocket? I should be drinking for free at my own bar. And so he opens up a little bar with a little kitchen, tapas, da-da-da. And then like 3 months into it, he's like, what the fuck is this? My dishwasher didn't show up. My bartenders are stealing liquor. My linen guy came in late. The rent is through the roof. The property taxes are through the roof. The liquor license, my health inspector came in and my dishwasher temperatures weren't the right temperature. The acidity and like stacked problems. And then he turns around and is like, well, I don't know how to any of this. I just saw it look cool on TV. I've been to a bunch of bars. I've been a dentist for my entire life.
Yeah.
I don't know how to run a restaurant. I don't know how to run a bar. Fail. There goes his nugget.
There went your $200,000 investment.
Oh, at minimum. At minimum.
So that didn't happen with you, but you did part ways with the Segafredo.
Yeah. Well, like I've also failed. Like you have to fail. Like as an entrepreneur, like I can look back and whether I was the owner of the restaurant, whether I was a manager of the restaurant, where I was a cook, a chef, it doesn't matter what title I had in that restaurant, I learned from the failures. You have to be like acutely aware of failures, and you can't let failures hurt your ego. Like your ego can't be so attached to your project that when you fail, it breaks you. Like it just can't. Like you got to take your ego out of it. You have to look at it like clean, black and white. Like if someone says, oh, I didn't like that pancake. Like, oh, it doesn't hurt my ego.
Right.
Well, the next 150 people are going to love that pancake. So if you didn't like, wasn't for you, that's okay. Like, was it a small failure? Yeah, but now I got to go and wow that person and bring them something else or turn that situation around. So with that being said, whatever amount of failures that I've had over the years, like if I didn't learn from them, I wouldn't know how to fix the problems today if I didn't fail countless times before, So every single one of these restaurants that I've gone through that I've been a part of, whether they're here now or not or failed or what is it, like I always took acute inventory of why they failed. Like whether it was my fault, whether it was the other people's fault, doesn't matter. Just as long as I learn from the failure. And now I'm able to come into what I have now and my businesses and look at them and say like, oh, okay, now I understand like how to prevent those failures from starting. Like don't hire the person who comes in like this, negotiate the contract before signing the deal. Give yourself an out. Like you don't build a house without a front door and a back door. You got to know how to come into the house and you got to know how to get out of the house. So with all your contracts with your vendors, linen company or whatever it is, like give yourself an out. The guy wants to come in. He's going to give you this great deal. He's going to amazing pricing, but do you write in your contract? Okay. Yeah. But if the linens come in with more than X amount dirty, then I'm going to remove 8% from my bill or whatever it is. Like you have to be able to stand your ground and you don't know how to negotiate that stuff until you've gotten screwed by your linen company,
right?
Right. And then in hindsight, you're like, damn, I should have figured out a way to not get screwed there. And so that happens hundreds of different ways in the hospitality industry.
And then, but when you divorced from the Segafredo partner, did that make you think that you weren't going to ever partner up again for a minute there, or did you think, well, if I choose that route again, this is what we're going to do differently? And it's not like you have to call that guy out, but what would you do differently? Obviously you eventually got with your partner from Jealous Fork. Shout out to him, by the way. What was his name again?
Hendrik Tell.
Hendrik Tell.
We've been friends for like 18 years.
Awesome dude too as well, man. Shout out to Hendrik. Before you became partners with him, and I have heard the story, we're going to go over it again. Did you second guess ever partnering up again, minus maybe an investor, but no actual partner? Like where did it fall off? He didn't carry his weight in regards to like duties and shit?
He didn't know enough about the business to bring up problems in the right way. I guess that's one way of putting it. So you run your labor cost, you run your food cost, and you run your beverage cost. And each one of those costs need to align with the sales. Okay. So when you have someone that says, my food cost is, and so there's also industry standards, right? You should industry standard at the high end run for like a 30% food cost. If you can go a little bit above it, and there's these sliding scales, right? Like your potato French fries are going to be much lower in food cost. They're going to be like a 10% food cost, 15% food cost. And then your like Delmonico steak might be like a 35, 40% food cost. But on average, you should be aiming for that like 30% range.
Okay.
Under is better. Lower the better.
Right.
And so what that means is you need to divide your food sales by your food purchases. And so there was a scenario where he came in like super upset. I'm a huge respect guy. Like you're not going to hear me cuss at you. You're not going to hear me belittle you. You're not going to talk down to you. I believe in being professional, amongst your boys. Sure.
Right.
Sure. Right. But like when you're in a professional environment, you got to give the respect that you ask for. And that's just how I am. And so he came in just livid one day, super upset and not thrilled with the food cost and telling me that it was, out of whack. I'd look at the numbers and like I go back and look at these numbers and I look at and I'm like, this guy not knowing what he was talking about. He's looking at the wrong invoices. He's bringing in like soap and mop heads and degreaser and bleach into the food cost. Like there's a reason why these food purchases are through the roof because you're not looking at only food purchases. You're looking at the whole invoice. But that was like a kind of a red flag for me of, this isn't going the right way.
How long did that last with Segafredo?
I was there for about a year and a half. We had a really tough opening because we turned the Ray's dry cleaners in South Miami and changed its use because it wasn't zoned for a restaurant at that time. That space.
Oh, okay.
It was a dry cleaner.
So permits after permits after
correct. And so
permits.
that's actually when we talk about like a learning experience. Like that to me is one of the greatest learning experiences over the years that I've taken. Which is unless you have deep pockets, deep pockets, second generation restaurant. Second generation.
Already made, pre-made, all that.
Yeah, so second generation is a restaurant that's failed already. So you go into one that's closed, again, 90% failure rate. So they're popping up all the
Right.
time.
Yeah, you're going to find one.
You're going to find one.
Yeah.
You just need to go into it and realize, excuse me. You need to go into it and realize like why it failed. Do your inspection, bring your guys in, look at the hood, look at the air conditioning, look at the grease trap, look at your plumbing, look at all that stuff. And the financial cost of you going into that is going to be way less, especially through permits. Permitting is, oh man, I don't even want to talk about permitting. I'm going to throw Dade County under the
Yeah. Oh.
But look, they're just trying to do their job, okay? But man, you work with Derm, hard. You try to get certain permits, get inspections out, it's just hard. And it's going to, so time is money.
Right.
So the longer it takes you to get those permits, to get that construction, to get your expediter, to build your dream restaurant.
Well, you're losing because you're not winning.
You're correct. You're not winning. So second generation is the way to go. So
that's a great piece of advice there.
Yeah. And so we built this restaurant at the time by demolishing almost the entire building. We kept some of the frame and changed the use, and we had a huge mission with the city of South Miami because they wanted a certain amount of green space because they were concerned that we were taking away too much grass and too much trees. And now you go look at the space right now, and like all of the green space and grass that South Miami was arguing about, it's long gone. Long gone.
You know, somebody paid them a little extra.
Dude, well, I don't know, man. It wasn't us paying. They didn't gift us anything.
Right, obviously. Have you seen, with your experience, have you seen the a lot of the dirty side of, corrupt type movements, or is it maybe not being able to point it out, but you knew something was fishy?
There's a lot of like power trips. Like a lot of these people, like they know they hold the yes to your business, and when you hold that yes, that signature, then there's some power manipulation there, And a lot of times, unfortunately, Miami just moves slow. Like when you compare doing business in New York or doing business in Los Angeles to doing business in Miami, like everyone here's on Latin time. Like what's going on? Like you're taking way too long of a lunch. You're on chill out mode. Like we need to move faster. Like
right.
That's, to me, that's one of the most difficult things to do business with people here is that they're just on Latin time. You
think
like
it's slow? Do you think is there too many businesses trying to open, or it's just a bad habitual thing?
I think a lot of it is habitual. I think that it's just in the culture. It's accepted to be late. It's accepted to be running late. It's accepted to be behind. I think it's just part of like the cultural acceptance. My wife, her family lives in Germany, and we were all there visiting, and we were going to take a tour of a castle, and her whole family is Venezuelan, right? So they're on Latin time.
Oh, goodness.
And so we show up 1 minute late for the tour start date, and we didn't get in. They're like, nope, you got to wait 15 minutes. You need to go back to the counter, buy the next time ticket slot in, and come back. And then my aunt, right, my wife's sister, my aunt. No, yeah, my aunt, right, my wife's sister.
It's somebody else's aunt. It's not your aunt.
No,
your wife.
Who is my wife's sister?
That's the aunt of your kid.
My wife's
She's your
sister.
cousin.
No.
Yeah, she'll be considered like a cousin. Oh, they're
They're
gonna eat us up.
Not tequila in this.
Yeah, it's not. It's just, by the way, we gotta talk about how delicious this is too.
Listen,
but they're gonna murder us for this
man.
right now.
Whoever your wife's sister, I don't know why that escapes me. Listen, my wife's sister.
Your sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow, that was tough.
Damn.
I was stealing a food coma from those pancakes. That's what
that's what it
Holy
is. There you
shit.
go.
All right, so my sister-in-law has a kid.
Oh
right?
man.
The kid is a toddler, and she's in ballet. And the mom, on Latin time, Venezuelan mom, brings the kid 1 minute late to ballet class, and the teacher doesn't let the kid in. She's like, no, you missed this week. Come back tomorrow or come back next week. And the little girl's crying. It's a little toddler. She's looking in the room like, oh, I'm ready to go do my ballet class. And the teacher was like, no, because she was late. So there's a standard.
Yeah.
And they set the standard, and it makes you respect it. Do you think that mom is going to show up late next time? No, she learned from her mistake.
Right.
Look at her daughter crying.
So we're the complete opposite over here in your experience.
Because we accept it.
Right.
Everybody's late. Everybody's lackadaisical. Everybody's on slow motion, and we just accept it. So it's just part of the culture is in terms of like let's get it done.
Right.
Like a sense of urgency. That's what I'm looking for. Like we struggle with sense of urgency.
I forgot where I heard this line. It's very universal. It's very known. But in case people don't hear it enough, if you're If you're on time, you're late.
Ritz-Carlton, baby. That's where you learned it.
Really?
Early is on time and on time
That's
is
right.
late. Yeah.
You get early is on time and on time is late. And that is the fact. If you apply that to your life in some shape or form where it fits, punctuality, when you're punctual, it speaks a lot. It says a lot about you. People look at you differently when you show that punctuality. You're showing a form of discipline. You're showing respect. You're showing consideration towards the people involved in you being punctual. So punctuality is a great thing all on its own. It sets the bar. It causes a ripple effect of, hey, Joaquin came in here at the right time. We said dinner's at 7. Well, Keno's came in at 7 o'clock. Now, if you get there at 6:30, say, hey, you need help setting, damn, Keno, you came early. Here, have a cup of wine, this and that. Not really. So, and that definitely is applicable in the business world. And unfortunately, Miami is not known for it. Yeah.
No, if you're able to really self-reflect, like if you're able, like I like to talk a lot about being like the watcher of your own life. Like if you're able to remove yourself from your own perception and put a little like yourself up here watching your own life, looking down at you, you would see that the people who wait for you to show up on time only lose respect for you because you're wasting their time. You're not respecting them.
Right.
So you need to realize that like, you can be a better person. You can be more responsive. For sure, you could have got up earlier. For sure, you could have like say, hey, listen, I got another meeting in an hour. It's going to take me 30 minutes to get there. I do need to wrap this up with you. With all due respect, we need to finish this meeting. Like you can manage your life better before getting to that place late. You just can. Like, okay, yes, there's going to be the fluke accident. There's going to be the fluke, something happened, a flat tire. But generally speaking, you can manage your life better to be on time. You just have to respect the people that you're being late to more.
What's going on, beautiful world? Just want to remind you guys that this podcast is officially hitting its 5th year anniversary, and it's all because of you. Truly appreciate all the love and support that every one of you guys have showed. And if you haven't struck that subscribe button, please do now. And if you like the content that you're hearing, how about you put that thumbs up? Now let's get back to the podcast. I told this friend of mine, he was telling me he was going through some lonely times. He says he still has his friends, but they're adulthood. Parenting here, another one has a business there, another one moved away. And now, because he doesn't have a girlfriend anymore, he finds himself very lonely. But the reason he's so lonely is because he doesn't fucking leave the house. He literally caves himself into this cave of his home. He's not an introvert, but he can be. Yeah. When you bring him out and about, he mingles with anybody like the rest of us. Funny, shit talker, all that. But he'd rather be home and not come across human beings more than what he has to. Mm-hmm. That type of scenario, right? So I was telling him I was going to help him with that, come hang out with him more, tell him, hey, man, well, you need to come hang out with my crew or let's step out, get a bar or go to the bar or whatever. So he pulled a junkie stunt on me where he basically disappeared, didn't answer my text, and this went on for like 2-3 weeks. Oh, wow. To the extent where I almost got worried. I don't know him well enough. I'm thinking, is he going down a bad hole? Whatever that means. Might be drugs, might be alcohol, whatever it is. So I was reaching out. Even my mom was asking, hey, what's going on with so-and-so? I'm like, man, Mom, I don't know what the fuck to say, man. I reached out. I'm showing her my texts and everything. No me contaste, no me dice nada. Are you worried? I don't know. Kind of. Not really, but I don't know. Eventually, he pops up. Hey, what's up, man? Sorry, man. I was in my zone, blah, 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 blah. What's up? Let's train. All right, cool. So we set up the training day, and I go over there to train him. And right when I get there, he's wrapping up, getting ready to, for boxing. I say, hey, man, before we get into anything, you're about to hear me bitch you out. This is gonna be our first argument, if you want to call it that, or it can be our first and last. But let me bring this up. He's like, yo, my bad. I know what you're gonna say, bro. I'm sorry I disappeared on you, but if it makes you feel any better, I do it to everybody. Even my mom was pissed off and blah, blah, blah. I go, oh, that makes me feel any better. I don't give a fuck. I'm not everybody. I'm not anybody else. I'm making a valiant effort to try to get you out of the hole you're stuck in. And you literally just wiped your ass with my time and the importance of me giving you my time. You didn't respond back. You're going through some little emotional shit. I don't play the emotional shit. I'm here to support you and help you, but not if you're going to act like a little bitch and want to go, crumble up into the bed. I'm sorry, I don't vibe like that. That you got to deal with somebody else, a therapist, whatever. But if I'm going to give you this effort, compliment it by answering me. If you would have told me, look, Wes, I'm going through some shit. Just give me about a week and I'll reach out to you. Okay. Be safe. Take care. I'm right here. Let me know. Blah, blah, blah. But just ignore me and all that? Nah. So I let him have it. I let him have it. And I told him, it doesn't matter what you're used to. Don't do it. If you want me in your life, don't do that with me, period. Because if it happens again, I'm not reaching out. I don't give a fuck what happens to you. I'm moving on. And it's not even a bad breakup. It's just you don't deserve my energy because you're not reciprocating. You're not complimenting my energy by the inconsiderate things you're doing. So, again, going back to punctuality and how big of a role it plays, and not letting – I told my friend the story. And he's like, why'd you even reprimand him? Why even bother? He's not going to change. I said, you know what? You're right. There's a 99% chance that changed nothing. But I wanted to make sure that I did not give him the opportunity to say, I never knew you felt like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was the goal. I know I'm not going to change him. I know he's going to keep doing that. Matter of fact, he did it. He's done it again. Right now he's ignoring me. Yeah, MIA. But I didn't want him because that's where I have a little, I don't know if it's an ego thing maybe, but it's a personal thing where you're not going to be able to say, well, Wes never told me how he felt. Mm-hmm. Wes never put me in my place. Wes never made things clear about, blah, 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 blah. Nah, you're not going to have that opportunity. Anybody's going to have opportunities to be like, Wes, you just wasted your time. Yes, but he's not going to be able to say that I didn't at least give him that chance.
Of course. I think that one of the things that this guy doesn't get is one of my favorite lines is like, how powerful can a conversation be? Like he has to, again, go back to that watcher person,
right,
and realize what you're trying to share with him in that conversation, although it was given in a tough love way. Like he needs to realize that that's a powerful conversation, and that conversation needs to be the catalyst to changing him. He's got to realize, like, oh wow, that was disrespectful of me.
Right,
that was unkind. I didn't respect his time. I didn't respect how he thought of me and what our plans were, and I need to take a step back and look at the way I'm treating people in my life. I need to look at this conversation as being a powerful motivator to change.
By the way, by any chance, have you, I know you've moved, we're talking about years that you've moved on from that, but is he doing anything now? Do you keep,
no clue.
You have no clue at all?
No clue. Yeah.
Fuck him. Moving forward. So what came after Segafredo's? You were working for a restaurant or so before you eventually got into...
Correct. So Segafredo ended, and I took some time off, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I kind of want to be out of the business. So I started a completely different non-hospitality business that I still have today, and basically worked my butt off for years doing that. And then I decided that I saw this was now let's say fast forward 5-6 years. So now we're looking at 2016-ish. Let's call it 2014 because it happened 2 years. 2014, I realized, like, man, internet's coming. Heavy. Smartphones. We're changing the way we interact. We're not able to have conversations with each other. We're not able to look each other in the eye. Amazon is here. Like, things are changing. This is, like major shift in the way we are with people.
Right.
And I saw retail stores start to struggle more and more and more because rent was getting expensive, labor is getting expensive, and a standalone retail store doesn't have the weight in marketing dollars and price point, competitive price point to challenge Amazon. Because I remember going into Home Depot and looking for a wrench. No, it was Ace Hardware. I apologize. Ace Hardware. Looking for a wrench and be like, here is $22. Amazon, $18. Okay, I'll buy it on Amazon. Wait 2 days. So what does that do to Ace? The business starts to fall, right? So for me at that point, I was like, okay, you know what? I want to create a place that promotes small business. I want to create a place that makes communities come together. And what do I love to do, right? I love to travel. I love tea. We're drinking tea right now. I love tea. Okay. I love arts. I love poetry. I love expression. I love music. I'm an artist. I love that. And then what else do I like? Okay. Well, I like coffee shops. I like places to work. I like to support small business. So I created this concept, this idea called Tea and Poets. And I wanted to put it in the center of Sunset Place in South Miami.
T-E-A.
T-E-A, like we're drinking tea and poets. P-O-E-T-S, tea and poets.
Love it.
And so, thank you. And so I approached Sunset Place Mall, this gentleman named Diego, and I said, hey, man, I got a great idea for you, man. This is going to be so cool. It's going to be great. And he looked at me like, what's this kid over here bringing up some like weird bohemian style tea, coffee shop, performance venue? No, we're good. At the time, there was like Victoria's Secrets, Armani, Gap, Banana, Mayors. Like, this was kind of like the heyday of Sunset Place. And he wasn't giving me time of day. Excuse me. He wasn't giving me time of day. And so that happened every 6 months. I reached out to the guy like, hey, Diego, you could have been collecting rent from me. Another 6 months went by. You don't have any of my money. That vacant space just sitting there. Let me have it. 6 months goes by. Another 6 months goes by. 2 years of that goes by. And Simon Mall, which used to own Sunset Place, then sold it to 3 companies, Comras Group, Federal Realty, and Comras Federal and Grass River Properties. So those 3 bought Sunset Place from Simon Mall. And the girl who was in charge of leasing was from New York. So I approach her and I'm like, hey, listen, I have this great concept. It's like Chelsea Market in New York. It's like this. It's so cool. It's bohemian. She's like, oh, I love Chelsea Market. And she liked the idea. She saw the vision. And she's like, okay, let's give it a shot. So they gave us a temporary lease, test us out. And now 10 years in July, baby. 10 years in July.
Awesome,
you know, we've rode the wave of Sunset Place. It's definitely like going down. I think they unfortunately mismanaged that mall quite a bit over the years.
They did.
I love South Miami. I think it's one of the coolest cities in all of Miami. Yeah. It feels like a little small city that hasn't evolved, which is also part of the problem.
Right.
But you know, we've done well, thank God, over the years, and we've really created a special spot for breakout artists, for young kids who need a place. Like I said, I wasn't a great kid. I wish that I was not on the streets doing stupid stuff, coming home in the back of cop cars as much as I was.
Right.
And if I had a place like Tea and Poets, I would definitely have been a better kid.
For sure.
You know, and so we are that venue for a lot of kids.
10 years in the making, man. And I want to point out that for those, you know, people who really are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur one day, maybe they are in the middle of their journey, or they would like to, or just, you know, you want to hear some good knowledge that reminds you of what to do in life when you want to succeed in things. Doesn't just have to be an entrepreneur. 2 years of bothering these people every 6 months, that's called persistence. Okay, that's what that is. That's dedication. That's commitment. That's you were committed, and psychologically you were determined. Nah, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make this happen. Now think about this, strategical too, because you were actually telling them, hey, you could have made some money off of me this last 6 months. Instead, whoever has that vacant spot is losing money. Yep. So you're coming at them with that. You're realizing what's going on in regards to the other stores falling off and then you paid so much attention that you saw that a new owner came in, new management group of the facility, and boom, it happens. And now look, 10 years of success afterwards. So that persistence paid off, and I think that's huge to remind people that, you know, you really got to grin and bear it. Don't give up on your idea and continue on. So awesome. So now you're 10 years into that. Okay. And when did
Jealous Fork?
Yeah. How did that happen?
We've been now Jealous Fork been 5 years. So again, going back to like relationships and business and marriage and the whole thing, like I go, wow, you know, my business partner here at Tea and Poets, Henrik, this guy, we work well. We're opposites. We're opposites in style. We're opposites in people. We're opposites in every possible way. Uh-huh. But we have the same work ethic. And we both are very complementary. You know, like there are a lot of tips that as an entrepreneur I can share with you. But like one of the ones is like surround yourself with everybody who can do what you can't. You know, like don't hire someone who's your identical person because you don't need that person. Yeah. You need the person that has every characteristic that you don't. You know, if you're great at playing chess and you're the chess genius, you need a hammer. You need a guy who's your muscle, who's a hammer, who's a banger. You need to bring in the polar opposite of you. Mm-hmm. You know, and so Henrik and I were so like compatible in our differences, working together with the same vision. So hey, Henrik, we're at my house. And we had no plans. This is no plans whatsoever on this. So we're at my house one day. Well, I'll preface. So before we were all married and have kids and the whole thing, we used to go on guys trips. Again, he's been my friend for 18 years. And so all these guys trips, whether they're out of the country or domestically, we would always look up best pancakes, best brunch, you know, Googling the categories, going to visit all these places. Okay. So without noticing it, we're like 15 years in on research, having no idea that in the future we're going to open up a pancake spot. So we're at my house making pancakes just as friends, like you and I did earlier. Right. Just as friends, making pancakes, doing pancakes, and I'm putting them on my social media. I'm not a popular guy. I have a small amount of followers like a normal person, right? And I'm putting them on my Instagram, personal Instagram. And I'm sharing, oh, we're making pancakes. Here we are. And the likes in the comments compared to a normal post from me was like way higher. And it was that like light bulb field of dream moments. Like, hey, should we open a pancake restaurant? Like, what the heck? And so Henrik is like, maybe we do. I like the idea. So the following week, he's on eBay. And he's like, yo, Keno, there's a pancake food truck for sale. I'm sorry, I apologize. There's a food truck for sale here in Miami, close. And I'm like, pancake food truck. I jump online, Google. Pancake food truck Miami, nothing. Pancake food truck Florida, nothing. Pancake food truck United States, nothing. I'm like, dude, are we gonna be the first pancake food truck in the country? Boom, like right. And then you're like, okay, what's your competitive advantage? Right? You always talk about competitive advantage. That's like one of the most important things you can talk about. Like, why are you better than someone else?
Right.
How are you competing with your advantage? Well, we're the first of its kind. What a competitive advantage. Right. No one in the country is doing it.
The closest thing would be a breakfast truck.
Correct. Like,
that's
and
it.
You can't even, I guarantee you can't even find one of those.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
there
you're right.
aren't a lot of, for whatever
You're
reason,
right.
aren't a lot. A million burger taco trucks.
Yep.
Some Middle Eastern trucks.
Yep.
Some healthy vegan trucks.
But not breakfast trucks.
Breakfast tacos?
Yeah.
No. Dude, like, so, yeah, I'm sorry, breakfast tacos. Breakfast trucks and pancake trucks?
Now someone's going to start a breakfast taco truck. Bam.
Damn.
Go.
So that was good. So the next week, we go to check out this truck. And we're like, fuck it, let's do it. Bought the truck, went silent on Instagram, broke. So in fine dining, we have this statement that's called understand the science before you cultivate the art, right? So for us, what we did is we broke pancakes down to an absolute science. We basically like studied the pancake of what makes it so good and what a perfect pancake is. And 22 recipe attempts later, we had what we believe was like the perfect pancake. And so
did you do like I guess like blindfolded type test or invite your friends to do you and your partner?
I just gotta trust my palate. Like I've been in the industry long enough.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
To have like I
total
trust
sense.
my
Yes.
palate. So
yeah, matter of fact, you should trust that before everybody else.
correct. I'm gonna get some guy in who's only eating.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like,
yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
So no, that was just Henrik and I. 22 recipe attempts later. And we had it. We like locked it in. And then it's like, okay, we have the perfect pancake. Now let's talk about what people like. They want chocolate. They want blueberries. They want strawberries. They want, like we started going. And then the thing that set us on another level was the fact that we introduced the savory pancake. And that was something that no one had ever seen at all. We have a pork belly pancake that's made after a Vietnamese dish called a banh mi. Banh mi is traditionally a sandwich, either made with chicken or, fish or pork. So ours is a braised pork pancake with cucumbers and red chilies and basil and cilantro and pickled onions and carrots on a pancake, 100% savory, no syrup, nothing sweet. And then we have a chicken thigh high, which is like a Southwest Tex-Mex style chicken pancake with black bean salsa and corn. Excuse me, with black bean salsa and corn grilled into the pancakes. Melted cheese, really Southwest Tex-Mex. And then the last one was a burger. We literally made like a burger with the top and bottom bun as sesame seed pancakes and like a burger in between, like patty with cheese and Gouda and the whole thing. And like when we launched, like that was just like no one had seen that. I was just like, what the heck is going on? And so we launched in October of 2019, right before COVID, a couple months before COVID.
Ooh. Yeah.
So we take off. COVID gets here, we got to shut down. And during COVID, whether you were a manager or an owner or had any control over a business, you had to pivot. You had to pivot. You had to figure out like, how do I adapt to this new world? Because regardless of whether the government told you that you were an essential business or not, your bills were still coming.
Right.
It's not like you're like, oh, you know what, you're not essential, so we're also going to pause your bills.
Right.
That didn't happen. So it's like, well, wait a second. I got to support the family. We got to pivot. We got to move. We got to adapt. So Henrik, being the computer engineer that he is like, I'm going to build a website and we're going to put the raw pancake batter in quart containers online for sale, and we will deliver pancake batters. And I'm like, bro, that's a great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So what got us through COVID was loading up quart containers of frozen pancake batter in the back of one of those massive white fishing coolers in the back of my truck and driving from like North Broward all the way through the Keys 3 days a week delivering pancake batter. And we were there in like masks and goggles and gloves and the whole thing. Like we didn't know anything about COVID. Who knows where COVID virus is? But we were like delivering it like Breaking Bad, like dropping off like bags of pancake batter, you know, and that got us through COVID. And then COVID, the lockdown lifted. And again, we didn't know what was going on with COVID, but we knew that outside was better than inside. You didn't want to be indoors because you could be living,
breathing,
you could be living somewhere. So that lent itself to the food truck really well. And people just came out in droves, man. We just had lines and lines of people. And then at the end of 2021, we got awarded Best Food Truck in South Florida, which was great. And then in 2022, Food Network found us. And Guy's Grocery Games invited us out to California to film.
Nice.
And so those two events kind of back to back, just when that episode aired, we lost. We beat ourselves. We lost. We beat ourselves. We were joking about it actually yesterday in the restaurant, like how bad we beat ourselves. Great experience, phenomenal production.
And it boosted you guys up, definitely.
Yeah, but when that episode aired, like we showed really well. Like people liked us on the show. And so when that aired, we just exploded. And we had lines just down the street, like 40, 50 people in line. 40, 50 people bring 40, 50 cars. And 40, 50 cars parked on a street corner of a Miami-Dade County park on a shoulder where there's no designated parking.
Small park, by the way.
Small park, yeah. Like it really took up a lot of space. Yeah. And so that, the second highest.
I'm telling you, dude, I would be driving home from work. And I would just see a fucking, like you said, just a fleet of cars trying to find a place to park just because your food truck was right in the corner of that park.
Yeah, we're very grateful for that, man. Really grateful. Yeah. But then at the height of the food truck, second highest guy up in Dade County Parks basically pulled us into his office and said that we were a danger to the public. There are too many people on the corner, and that he was going to terminate our lease.
Before that, so that kind of pushed your cards into looking brick and mortar. But were you thinking that already prior to that?
Yes.
Or was that
so we already knew we had something real special. Like we knew it, but that was definitely like the swift kick in the ass that you needed. Right. So because once he shut us down and there was no like finish out your lease, like to this day, I haven't got my money back from Dade County on the remainder of my lease. And so that is what it is, right? I had to let go of the 4 employees that we had. Henrik and I instantly went from making money to making zero money, lost the money on the food we spent, like tremendous loss. It was like a big company just went like to a little company. And so we had to pivot, and so we knew we were onto something, so we like really got riled up to get some money and open up the restaurant. 8 months later, we opened up Jealous Fork, where it is now, Burden 142. And 3 months into opening the restaurant and having air conditioning, which is a great perk for a restaurant versus a food truck.
Right.
Travel and Leisure ranked us the 5th best pancake restaurant in the United States.
Wow.
Which was phenomenal. That was in 2022.
Did you look up your who beat you and why? Come on, you had to.
The list is there. The list is there. You can go read it on Travel and Leisure's website.
Yeah.
You know, so the 4 in front of us, I was very curious about that. They're not, I think number 1 is in Arizona or something like that, but I would love, like if I.
So you haven't
I haven't gone to them.
deep enough to see.
No.
Well,
curious.
The saying is comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Yeah.
But from a business perspective, first of all, top 5, ginormous congratulations. That's huge. But you want to know, hey, what are these guys possibly doing better than me? Or what is it that gave them the up, the 4 spots up on me? Is it presentation? Is it location? Have they been around longer than I have? Therefore, they got more support, which a lot of times that probably, is what it is. But, I think it'd be healthy to give it a look.
I have tasted pretty much every pancake in South Florida, right? Like, so like if I'm like looking at my competition for breakfast, brunch category, and I've tasted kind of what's out there, I have gone and made my rounds and like, without tooting the horn too much, like
nothing like y'all. No, I know it.
Close.
I know it for a fact.
Not on service, not on creativity, not on quality of product. Like, yeah, we're very grateful, but like, it takes hard work. It goes back to like what I was saying. Like excellence isn't easy. It's a choice.
Yeah, and I want to point out that look at all the obstacles that you guys went through, and once again, like I said earlier, your perseverance to succeed and to not give up and to do, make all the right decisions. You guys got shut down and you started selling you're slinging dough. Literally, you're fucking slinging 100%. Dough, dude. It doesn't get no more real than that. You're slinging dough and you're driving 3 hours, because from Broward to the Keys, you're looking at 3 hours, especially if you're going to Key West, you're looking at way more than that. So you were grinding to succeed, to keep the product alive, and to see better days, and you did. You did, and then it slaps you in the dick again, and now the county makes you have to jump through these hurdles, and you knew you were on to something. So perseverance is a real thing, and you guys were committed to it, and it took you to the next spot. So, and now how long have you guys been there?
So we've now been there 2.5 years. 2.5 years, and then at the beginning, at the end of 2023 or 2024, I can't remember, 2023, we got the Open Table Diners Choice Award, which is finishing the year at a 4.8 star rating or higher. Wow. At Open Table, and we finished at 4.9. So we keep the integrity consistently. Perseverance of excellence.
That's huge, bro. Yeah. That's huge. That's a lot of accolades that you've already accomplished that are very unknown to people out there. That people are probably used to hearing Michelin star or
that's
something else.
The one that's with the best marketing.
Yeah, there you go. Back to that. Yeah,
marketing.
That's true. That's true. But to get all the little accolades that you've already mentioned, it's awesome, dude. It speaks volumes of where you're at and what you're doing. And now you guys are looking to get a second location.
Yeah, looking for number 2. So we're looking for a second generation restaurant. In a perfect world, we have a lease signed by the end of the year or something, and we're ready to go and make some moves in 2026.
Now, being that you've gone through this whole process of managing restaurants, working all positions in different restaurants, getting guided by militant people before you, and now you're the general. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you got to coach people, teach people, boss people. You've seen it turn around. You know where I'm going with this. The generation of young people that that you are per se forced to hire, or the only options you have for the most part. It's a different generation now, and now they're a lot weaker, a lot softer, a lot more into their emotions, and you find yourself at times struggling and having to adjust way more often than what you thought. Right? What's that about?
God, I have it on. It's interesting at both of my businesses. When I go to interview people and hire people, I always start with the same question: tell me about yourself. I think it's generic and you might not like it, but as a hiring manager, I need to hear you talk about yourself. I need to hear you tell me about what your own perception of your self-worth is. So I'll extend my hand. And 90% of the time I get like a,
oh God,
matter
oh
God,
God,
that handshake. And then the person can't look me in the eyes. They're like, and so tell me about yourself. Oh, well, like I like to chill and, I game. I like to chill and I like to game. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Tell me when you're not gaming, what is chilling? It's chilling. Like I'm just chilling. And I'm like, okay, but what does that, like physically, what are you doing while you're chilling? Oh, like I'm just like, on TikTok or, Instagram. Like, okay, so you're on your phone. Okay, so your day consists of you playing video games and being on your phone. Well, what do you like to do outside of that?
There's another world outside of that?
Crickets, dude. Like,
God.
And so it's really hard to, we develop our sense of self-worth very different in today's day and age versus the in today's day and age versus, now. And so that is something that I see, like the ability to be confident in an interview is so important, and we need to have a young individual that has confidence and has charisma for in-person type of interactions, for cafes, for restaurants. And I feel like the way that the kids these days have developed their sense of self-worth is through likes and comments on Instagram.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but I need to remind you guys just how fucking awesome you are. This podcast is hitting its 5th year, and we are celebrating by shouting you guys out. Thank you so much for showing all the love and support that you've been doing so for so long, and let's continue it. So you're adjusting, having to deal with staff, and I think this is very important for anybody who, again, wants to be an entrepreneur. Another piece of the puzzle that you got to take into consideration is the staff. Just as important as any other business owner, staffing is one of the most important, if not the most important, component to successful business. But people who are thinking about journeying into the business world, they need to realize the difficulty of the era of people you're going to be hiring for your staff, especially if you're in the youthful.
If you're hiring that demographic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, like that demographic's not going away. You know, like they're here to stay.
Right.
Know? So you got these kids. You got these kids who are. Sorry, hold on. Just took a drink of water. All right, you got these kids who are, developing their sense of self-worth on Instagram. So, you've got 17-year-old girl who is going to be a barista at my cafe, and she puts up a photo of herself reading a book and gets 10 likes. She puts up a photo of herself reading a book in a bikini and gets 100 likes. What does it tell her about her sense of self-worth, right? So when you have these kids that are basically having this misguided development of self-worth, and then they go into the real world and they get a job, and their boss doesn't value them based on their looks, and their boss doesn't value them based on them in a bikini or them with their shirt off, flexing at the gym.
Right.
They struggle. They struggle. And when you give them adversity, when you give them a challenge, one of my other favorite questions, like, tell me the hardest thing you've ever done in one of your past jobs. And you like those answers are like, that's the hardest thing you did.
Right.
You had a guest that couldn't find the bathroom or whatever. You're like,
right.
Holy smokes, And so, we need to figure out a way to build the confidence in these kids. We got to figure out a way to get them off the phones and off the tablets. You're doing that with your work, with your personal training. Like, that's super confidence building. We need more of you. Like, we need more people like you out there taking these young kids and building senses of self-worth outside of social media.
You can even see how bad it is when you see a couple of friends, 2, 3, if it's a group, forget about it. But in that age range from 17 to 19, 20, they're out for lunch, dinner, whatever, and right in front of each other, they're all on their phones.
Oh yeah,
it's fucking insane. They literally do not know how to socialize and interact. It's too awkward for them to just enjoy something like that, And again, piggybacking what you're saying, those who do communicate, they're doing it through DMs.
correct.
So there's short little DMs. They can say it without worrying about what their facial features are looking like and their mannerisms, what are they doing with their hands and stuff like that. So they don't know how to do that. It's all, via DMs, via videos or talking, during a live filming of some type of content creation. So it definitely hurts what you got to deal with.
And so just kind of continuing that thread, in today's date, between boys and young men between 15, 16 and 25, in today's date, have the lowest sexual activity rate in like the history of mankind, because they don't know how to pursue women. They don't know how to talk game. They don't know how to flirt. They don't know how to be with a woman. They don't know how to be suave or demure or macho or, romantic. They don't know how to, any of the components that get you a girl. They don't know how to do any of them because they only know how to interact on their phone. They know how to send the photo. They know how to talk on the phone. They probably know how to ask ChatGPT what the best, flirting lines are there, But once they get human to human,
right,
they don't know how to actually close a deal. They don't know how to walk up to a girl at a bar and be like, "Hey, my name is Keno. I love your dress. It's a beautiful color. It goes great with your eyes," or whatever, right? They don't know how to just engage, and so that has just shot relationships,
right,
and just like the pursuit of young boys to girls down to like historic lows.
So have you changed your way of hiring people because of that? I mean, you say you have the same questions that you like to ask. By now, you're used to the same type of answers for the most part. It had to be a somewhat of a rare gem who answers differently. You're like, oh, I like this one.
Yeah.
Are you feel like you're rotating too often between employees?
That's just the demographic, right? But there is still the cream kind of rises to the top. And in addition to that, you've got to find the light in someone's eyes to see if they're trainable, So, like a great metaphor that I like to use is, as a business owner, is that, like, let's take this table, right? It doesn't matter if you perceive yourself to be the tabletop or the table legs. They're both equally valuable. So this tabletop without the legs is just a piece of wood on the floor, right? This tabletop over there without the legs is just 4 legs on the floor. right? So it doesn't matter which one you perceive yourself to be. All the components need to come together to form a table. So I need my employees. I need my employees because I don't have legs or I don't have a top to accomplish the job of becoming a table. And so in the interview process, I just have to ask the questions. I have to go deeper. You're going to find there's different personality types. Right. You just have to spend the time. You might, in the past, pre-COVID, let's say you interviewed, 10 people to get 2 good ones. Now maybe I need to interview 25 people to get 2 good ones.
Right.
You just got to do the work. And then you have to, once you hire that employee, you have to commit to training them. In every single one of my businesses, I have heard countless times, wow, I've never got this much training. In my old restaurant, in my old cafe, in my old coffee shop, they just threw me on the floor and said, figure it out. It's a horrible feeling. Like, knowledge is power. Knowledge is confidence. And when you're thrown into any situation in any business without giving the proper training, it's a horrible feeling.
Right.
It's just, you just feel like, and then you start to resent the owners or the managers because you're like, man, you put me in this position that now I feel not comfortable doing because I wasn't trained correctly.
Right. The onboarding process.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're just like putting holes in cardboard. Like, it doesn't matter if someone didn't teach you how to put the hole in the cardboard, and then when the cardboard comes along and you're like, well, that was wrong. Well, I wasn't trained correctly. And so you have to spend your time training correctly and weeding out, because even sometimes through the training process, you find, oh, that wasn't the right person. I shouldn't have hired that person. Okay, thank you for playing. On to the next cafe. Do
you find do you think that even with that said and the difficulties behind staffing and staffing well and going through the interviewing process, you're talking about you guys are hopefully getting this second location, hopefully signed a lease by the end of the year. Now that starts not thin, but it starts spreading you a little bit more, and you already know how difficult it is in regards to just running one plus being part of the other. So you have Tea and Poets, you have the first Jealous Fork, and now you have a second one. When do you say, okay, that's enough, we need to now sell a franchise, or I don't know what how does that go next? You're thinking that far ahead? I assume
always. Yeah, you got to put management, just management.
Right.
Like,
delegate.
you can only let's say that your maximum efficiency in your day is you working at 80% of your capabilities. Okay, you're the most badass, productive, not efficiency, I apologize. The most maximum production that you can do is 80% of your abilities throughout the day. You can only produce at 80% of your total amount of energy for so long before you burn out.
Right.
You physically cannot go months at 80%. It's just not. It's not humanly possible. Sooner or later, you're gonna go 78, 76.
Of course, right.
You're gonna burn out, and then you have spun so hard for so long because you only were counting on yourself that by the time you're at 50%, the quality of your product is gonna be dog crap.
Right.
The people around you will have affected, and so you can't hold so tightly. And a lot of new entrepreneurs, don't recognize they have to let it go. You got to give it to someone else.
You think it's because of a power trip or because they want to keep as much money as possible?
No, I think we're ruled by fear. I think it's ego. Fear-based. If I give it to someone else, it's going to dilute the brand. It is 100%. No one's going to wash your car the way you wash your car.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
But you got to find the person that's going to wash it as close to the way you're going to wash your car.
Right,
and you got to pay that person correctly. Like, what's more important? Taking, $75 from one business or taking $50 from 4 businesses?
Right. There you go.
Come on. You gotta realize that, you have to pull back in certain ways. So there are management structures built in. I have a manager at Jealous Fork. I have a manager at Tea and Poets. Those people are trained correctly. They're paid correctly. It's that they've come up within my kind of corporate ranks to have earned those jobs. And so, I'm not creating generational wealth with one food truck. I'm not creating a life for my great grandkids from one cafe. I think a lot of people have the idea that their big picture goal, their BHAG dream is to open a business. Well, unless that one business is a massive, massive multi-million-dollar business, you're not creating generational wealth.
Right.
You have to look at it bigger. You go, okay, well, you see it all the time in a lot of family-run restaurants. It's just the family running the restaurant. Well, they're a slave to that restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of life is that?
Right. Now, you've been influenced by a lot of different cultures that you've visited, foods that you've tasted. Now, you don't introduce those heavily or maybe not even much at all, except for a few items into at least not into Jealous Fork, but for the right reasons, because you're keeping the menu to a certain amount, and it's also you're not going to jump too out of range from the pancakes and other sources. By the way, for anybody who's second guessing, because we've all been there, and you and I spoke about this when we did lunch, had coffee a week ago. The whole concept of putting something that's not fruity or desserty or sweet in combination with pancakes, because that's what we're used to. That's what we've been brought to eat. You know, pancakes with syrup, pancakes with butter, pancakes with some type of fruit on top of it. If it's a hard pill to swallow, get over that shit quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because even though it doesn't do it justice, this is how I'm going to compare it, but I'm only going to use this as an analogy. The same way the perfect pasta or parmesans or chicken parmesan goes with garlic bread. Mm-hmm. The same way breadsticks would go along with something else. Crackers would go along with your croqueta or your tuna salad. The same way that happens and it goes so well, pancakes haven't been given a chance to go that route. When you taste these pancakes, especially these specialty pancakes with the pork and anything else I know you've spiced it up a lot new ways that I haven't tasted yet. It's phenomenal. Jump out your box. Don't even have a box anymore. Throw the box away and just go try that out. But with that said, you travel the world a lot for different reasons. You travel with your dad. I don't know, outside of the boys and doing all the traveling. You've done a lot of food tasting. One of the influences was this. This is literally the best tea I've ever had. I've never had something so full of one fucking drink, to be quite honest with you. You made this to hold us down while you were cooking the pancakes earlier. And I just finished this maybe, I don't know, a minute ago or so. It went from hot to cold and still phenomenal. Cold, yeah. You learned this
in Pakistan.
I want you to tell that story on how that gentleman did what he did, taught you what he taught you, and look how far it's come, and now it's one of your main orders at Jealous Fork.
So I love to travel. As you said, I've been to over 22 countries, and
22 countries. Yeah. It's awesome. It's a lot.
It's I mean, you self-reflect a lot. You know, like if you're really open to being the watcher of your life, you can take a good look at what you're experiencing in other countries and look at how different it is to the life you live here in the United States. You know, like what a blessing that you were born in the United States, or what a blessing you got to come to the United States. You know, and that's something that weighs heavy on me when I am out traveling. You know, not so much when you go to like first world countries, but like second and third world countries is like, oh wow, you don't have that. I don't know if have you been to Cuba?
No, I haven't. Costa Rica.
So that's only. Cuba is interesting in the sense of the way the Wi-Fi works. I know you asked me about this cup, but just real quick, some of you who've been to Cuba, you'll know this, but like you go into a convenience store and you buy a scratch off, and the scratch off gives you a Wi-Fi code, and then you drive around the city until you find a public corner, and you'll see like 30 people on the public corner, all on their phones. And you go to that public corner because there's a hotspot there. And then you scratch off your card, and you get your code, and you enter your code into your phone, and then you're connected to the internet.
Never heard that.
What in the world, right?
Right.
Like that's how you get to the internet. If you're not like in a hotel or like if you're a normal person,
right,
Cuba, that's how you do it. And so that's how I got internet in Cuba. You know, because of that experience. And so you look back at the fact that anywhere in the country right now, you and I can just turn on your Wi-Fi, and you just know. You know, it's like turning on clean water. You can go anywhere in the country right now. You're just going to turn on clean water, and we take it for granted. Hot, clean water, ice. Oh, man. Don't take ice for granted, bro.
Oh, I know.
Oh, my God. So anyway, my family and I are in northern India, in the Kashmir region, and up by Dal Lake, and which is right on the border of India and Pakistan. And we're walking in this street, and you look like a tourist. You know, as much as you try to blend in, you're not blending in. There's really something interesting about. There's really something interesting about Western tourists in second and third world countries that makes us stand out. Like we just look shinier. I know that's a weird thing to say, but like our clothes just look newer. Our skin just looks shinier. Our shoes, our nails, our hair, like you can try to blend in as much as you want, but like the physical fabric that you're wearing is just a higher quality. It doesn't matter even where you got it. You could have bought the shirt at the 99-cent store. That shirt just shines more compared to someone walking the street in Thailand that's a local, that's been there in their entire life. It's just, it's a weird, you just can't blend in, you know, as much as you want to try. So we're standing out like a sore thumb here, walking the streets. But as I was telling you earlier, our hearts are open. You always travel with an open heart. You always travel with kindness. You always just exude like kindness. It's the only way I can put it. And then people will see that. You know, it doesn't mean you walk around ready to be a victim. You know, you don't walk around with your passport on a lanyard around your neck, sitting there waiting to get taken. You don't wear your fanciest jewelry to walk the streets of Indonesia. You know, you don't do that. You need to be respectful of the type of tourist that you are and not be flashy looking to get taken. So you don't wear anything. You just wear normal stuff. So we're walking, we're having our heart open. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, where are you guys from? I said, oh, America. He goes, oh, please come into my house. Come into my house. And he brings us into his house, into his front room.
Some people would think, you know, that was ballsy to go in his house.
You're probably right about that.
You might get kidnapped and held for ransom.
You know what? You know,
but you had an open heart, so it went the right way.
And like, again, it really depends. Like, and maybe my open heart and my family's open heart saw his open heart and saw that there wasn't malice there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so because there wasn't anything, like I didn't think about that until just now you bring it up. Like that didn't even cross our minds. Because he was just this like kind person. You feel kindness in people. You just feel it.
That's an energy, of course. 100%. It's an energy, it's an aura, yeah.
So he brought us into his house. He has 3 daughters, a toddler, maybe a girl that's like in her teens, and then like a college student girl. And we sit on the, they're all covered, completely covered. Covered like this, not covered, like not in full burqa, right? And so, except the daughter. The youngest one didn't. I think you have to wait until puberty, and then once you hit puberty, you need to fully cover. So he brought us in. He sat us in his living room on a really nice carpet, and the daughters brought out tea, and they brought out like snacks and crackers and stuff. And he was an architect, and we just sat there for like 2-3 hours talking and sharing. They gave my sister like a full. I'm going to misquote it. I know it's not a burqa, but like a full wardrobe, like the whole top, the pants, the wrap, everything, just like as an exchange. It was so beautiful. Like it was really one of those experiences where you walked out and you're like, did that just happen? That was amazing. Like what a story.
I just walked out a completely different person.
And in the same respect, the oldest daughter, I asked her what she was going to college for. And she's like, the history of Muslim. And I was like, okay, well, but your dad is an architect. You don't want to be an architect like your dad? And she goes, oh, that's not offered. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not offered? Oh, women can't study that. I was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, we get a choice of like Muslim religion, Muslim history, Muslim culture, and da-da-da. It's basically the same exact subject, just with different titles. Yeah, perspective, dude.
Right.
Perspective.
I never heard that.
Perspective, man. Like, okay, so we're in a car. We're in this car. And it's an old, like a 97 Ford Explorer. No radio. And I make a joke. I'm like, damn, bro, someone robbed your radio. They took your radio. That happens all the time in California. You got to watch for the radios. He goes, oh, no, I bought it like this. The government removes all the radios from the cars before they sell them.
Jesus.
And I'm like, oh, like, again, the travel, the perspective that you get, the government, you're not allowed to listen to news. You're not allowed to listen to music in certain parts of the country, right? Like,
that's
you
wild.
physically can't even get it.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's such a perspective thing. Long story short, I go into the kitchen, I learn how to make this chai tea. It's delicious.
Iranian?
Not near Pakistani.
Pakistani?
Indian Pakistani. Yeah.
Indian Pakistani tea.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Chai tea, yeah.
Chai tea. Yeah. You guys definitely got to order that off the menu. But, you know, going back to what you said, you know, it's wild how that's life altering going to other countries, you know, especially like you said, the third world countries. You know, it grounds you. It reminds you how blessed you are to be an American. And even if you don't feel like you're blessed, even if you feel like, you know, we don't got our shit together, like, but I'm not trying to go into politics.
It's not a political statement.
Right. But I hate when real Americans, like you're born here, when they say they hate America. And when they talk down on America in so many different ways, I despise it. And I'm not some crazy proud, like, you know, hillbilly conk out a flag off my truck. No, but I'm a proud ass American. I love being American. And I know we every country has their shit, their bullshit, every gender, every race, everybody has their bullshit. their misrepresentation. We all have I wish it was a little bit better, but fucking look around, people, and you better know that we truly are the best country in the world. We truly are blessed to be in the situation that we are. You know, with all your struggles of becoming this business owner, yet you're privileged to have those struggles. You understand what I'm saying? Like you were privileged to have those struggles in your life to help you get where you're at.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people often talk about the Scandinavian countries or certain European countries. And, you know, my father, who travels quite a bit, much more than I do, you know, he went to open up a business in France because a lot of his business is happening in France. And the tax rate over there is absurd, like 70-something% tax rate. It's so difficult. And then my business partner in Jealous Fork and Tea and Poets, he's Norwegian. His mom came to visit once, and I was like, what would it take for us to open up like a Jealous Fork or a Tea and Poets in Norway? And she's like, oh, that would be so difficult. You know, like there's certain countries that are very anti-entrepreneur. They're very like, they want you to become part of the system. You know, like everybody in Norway, not everybody, a lot of people in Norway are engineers. Like I think they have more engineers than like any other country. Like you grow up and you just become an engineer. You know, like what a great way to contribute to the society, raising a bunch of smart engineers. Like That's fantastic. But like the amount of pizza shop owners or coffee shops or like pancake food trucks or doesn't exist. The government doesn't make it easy. That's one of the beauties of Florida or United States is like we know that our economy is stimulated by the middle class entrepreneur, by medium-sized businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. We know that. And so the United States makes it extremely easy to open and close businesses because it makes it very easy to open and close businesses because it knows that in the United States, you have to fail and you have to succeed and fail and succeed before you truly succeed. And so they make it easy to open and close these businesses and try and try. We know that. Like that's how our economy moves forward.
What was a country that had another wild impact on you that you didn't see coming that you might have visited?
Oh, I told you about Cuba, the cell phone thing. That was pretty wild. India is just insane. Out of all the countries I've been to, my favorite city is Varanasi, India. Is
that because of the abundance of spices and different plates,
no,
or more
dude,
so the
that's
culture?
Because of the culture shock. Like
really?
I have never been culture shocked in such a positive and negative way in such a small amount of time.
Really?
You can literally be walking the street and you just picked up this like most amazing like yogurt lassi drink, like muddled with mango and mint, and you're like walking the street eating it out of a clay pot that after you're done with it, you throw the clay pot on the ground and break it, which is so cool. And so you're walking the street eating this clay pot, you know, lassi yogurt dish, and you're like, oh, this is so good. Wow, what a unique experience, which, by the way, is not made with milk from a cow because in India, they believe that cows are sacred.
Right.
So all the dairy, the majority of the dairy in India actually comes from water buffalo, which is pretty cool. So water buffalo milk is really fatty. So the milk and cheese over there is just like, oh dude, it's so good. So you're eating this, right, and you're enjoying it, and then you come up along like this celebration of someone's birthday, and they're like throwing this chalk dust in the air, and there's a guy in the street, bam, 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 playing the drums, and people are playing tambourines and cymbals, and you all of a sudden you've like stepped into this like parade of like Holi festival almost, like it's so cool, and you're eating, and you're like, wow, and then you turn the corner, and you see a mutilated child on the ground begging for money, who's had his eyes gouged out and his legs broken and bent backwards, and he's on the ground panhandling for money, and that's literally around the corner. Like you literally went from here, you walked around the corner, and that child is right there. And then you're like, and you've never seen, they mutilate these childs intentionally. I don't know if you know that. So unfortunately in India, begging is a huge part of society. They actually have corners and begging locations that are passed down generation to generation to generation because it's a good corner to beg on. And they know that children, they know that children make more money.
Oh my God. Are you going to tell me parents are on purposely fucking deforming their kids?
I don't know if it's the parents. I can't speak on that.
Shit.
But I know for a fact that they intentionally mutilate children because a mutilated child will get more money in panhandling and asking for money than a non-mutilated child. Like, think about that for a second, right? Like, wow, how blessed are we to live here?
Right. Again, back to that. And that's where you see all this beautiful,
But that's
stuff.
why it makes it so beautiful, right? Like, I'm not saying like child mutilation is beautiful.
No, I know, but
Misquote
from one
that.
intensity
but
to the
you want
other.
to talk about just like, taking a step back again, being that watcher, like really taking a moment to like look at your life through another lens. Man, what an experience! What an experience of gratitude, of sadness, of culture shock positive, culture shock negative, just like perspective of your own life, appreciation of your own life, having compassion for someone, looking at that child and be like, God, I need to help. Like all of that in India is like into 1 minute, and it's strong, bro.
And you always remember that.
Always remember that. Yeah. And then if you want to talk about more food, although food in India is great, Thailand's amazing. Talk about food, just phenomenal. Some of the best like street fish. They coat this fish in salt and they put it on a spit and they rotate it over a fire and it like cooks and they scrape the salt off and they just give you the fish on a plate with some fresh herbs and some chili and lime. And you're talking about like food. Holy smokes! Some of the best food I've ever had is street food in Thailand. Really? Sitting on one of those like little chairs that you get at Toys R Us for like a 3-year-old kid,
right? And
you're there at like a cafe market under a blue tarp. And some one dude is using the same exact pan to cook for 100 people and like just putting out stir fry and just giving it to you in like a little box and you're eating it. Oh man, that's like my mouth is watering just thinking of that.
I'm not a big travel bunny because if I'm going to choose to travel, I really want to do outdoor shit. I'm not just to see buildings and people live differently and whatnot. I know I would appreciate it, but I would be more so of the, hey now.
Hold on, travel.
I would be more into I want to deal with the outdoor part of it. So Thailand is 100% on my radar, especially because of the Muay Thai. They're known for the Muay Thai culture and everything. But I've heard so many other amazing things about it, food wise, price wise, everything. Yeah, that's definitely on the list that I got to go to. What's up, folks? Sorry to interrupt this podcast, but I had to take my time to remind you guys just how awesome you are. Thank you for continuously to show so much support throughout these 5 years of us doing what we do. Truly appreciate it. And if you do too, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the content, hit that thumbs up. Matter of fact, if you want to show a little bit of extra love, how about you send this link to a friend? Truly appreciate all the support. Now let's get back to the show. Man, well, what a amazing ride it's been for you in so many different ways. And I know I can pick your brain apart and just fucking go off on so many different experiences you had, especially when it comes to traveling and the type of foods that you taste and the cultures and how they affected you, But what I've come to learn about you personally is you were mentioning it earlier when you were talking about the trip to India, right? That's where you met, where you had the Iranian tea?
Yeah.
That Pakistani tea?
Yeah.
I need to stop messing that up. I gotta give credit where I gotta give credit where it's due. I know right now. Fuck, dude.
Iranian tea.
Don't worry, we're not gonna edit that. But Pakistani tea. You had mentioned about always moving with an open heart. I like how you referred to that. I probably narrow it down to a simpler term of just positive energy. Just try to give off positive energy, positive vibes. I believe that's exactly what you mean by open 100%. Heart. When you give off positive energy, positive vibes, you're probably open-minded enough to be willing to open your heart to people and things and ideas. So I think that's played a key role in your success. But minus that part on a personal level, I would love for you to tell people, who aspire to be entrepreneurs, who aspire to maybe one day have a restaurant, maybe start with a food truck, maybe start with a food stand, who knows? But what are some key components? What are some bulletin points? What is some great advice? Because, by the way, you still do the consultation, or are you too busy for it? You do? Yeah. Okay, because you're a busy man, brother. And again, I'm so blessed that you were able to do this with me today. You're basically giving some free advice for right now, charge it to the game. But if you were going to give some free advice in some short terms, where people can understand, those of you listening, focus, write it down. But just remember, if it's not enough, please reach out to Keno. But what is some good advice that you would give people who are starting from the small, the conception, how to, you gave me some, I was talking to you about my idea, and you went into consultation form. I go into podcast form a lot when I have regular conversations with people. I know it. I catch myself, or they call me out on it.
Right.
And I'm okay
you're
with
not
it.
interviewing me, man.
Yeah, no. Well, I say I try never to go into interview, but they can tell, like, man, Wes is really into this conversation. They're not used to that, and then they realize, oh, that's right, he's a podcaster. No wonder. But I never want to make them feel like it's an interview.
Right.
But in comparison to what happened with you and I gave you my idea, and I was telling you what a friend and I were contemplating, and then you went right into consultation form, and you spit out some fire, some this. I would like for you to do that for the people watching, see, who you can help out a little bit there.
Of course, yeah. If you guys made it this far in the podcast, that's the gem. You waited long enough, so.
Awesome, yeah, that's right.
All right, let's see. I guess I can start from the very beginning. One, keep your idea close to your chest. Okay.
You elaborate on what you mean by that? Not letting people know about it?
Yeah, obviously, I appreciate you for sharing with me. I'm not taking that idea anywhere, but you don't know that. Right. So you need to keep your ideas close to your chest. A lot of times people don't feel too confident in their ideas, so they want to ask 100 people about it, and you kind of dilute it in a way. You need to have a very small, tight-knit group of people that you trust. I call that the country club mindset, okay? You need to surround yourself with people who are more successful than you, who are wealthier than you, and who are smarter than you. That's why a country club exists, because you go to the country club knowing that everybody at that club can pay that dues. They can all pay $100,000 a year to be a part of that club. They're all at the same level or higher, and you hope to go golfing. You hope to be in the steam room with someone who's 10 times more successful than you do, and that's why you pay to go to that country club, to be in the steam room with that guy, to be on the golf course with that guy, to be at dinner with that guy, because that guy is going to better you. So you need to keep your friend group of that kind of country club mindset, people who are better at life than you, and then share it only with those guys. Keep that idea real tight to your chest. Work hard in silence. Let your product speak for you. Don't talk about it. Don't brag about it before it. It's the worst thing in the world. I'm sure you have friends this way. That are this way. They're like, oh, I got this idea. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they talk. X amount of time goes by and nothing happened. Oh, bro, well, excuse. And all it does is it dilutes their value in your eyes.
Yes,
they're
100%.
still your friends.
Right.
But you're like, yo, this guy, he's talking from the side of his
crying
neck
wolf,
about this great idea that he has of da-da-da-da. And like, ideas are priceless. Priceless. They are worth $1 million or worth zero. It's the execution that is the value. It's how you execute. So one, hold that idea close to your chest. Share it only with your small, tight-knit group of friends and family. Find the friends who are willing to not blow smoke up your ass. You need to find, and sometimes those aren't friends. Sometimes it's just kind of like a business person or a consultant who isn't going to like brush you with a gold glove and be like, yo, what a great idea. That's such a great idea.
Avoid the yes men.
I hate yes men. I hate it. I need someone to like be like, yo, Keno, that is a horrible idea.
Right.
That is the stupidest shit I have ever heard in my life. It's going to fail. And then like we were talking about earlier, like take my ego out of it. I can't have my ego wrapped up so into it where if you tell me it's a stupid idea, it's going to break me.
Right.
Like I would hope that I am way more confident in my ability to produce at life than having one guy tell me it's a bad idea that's going to break me and now I can't function in the world anymore. Doesn't make sense. Like I got to be better than that. I've gotten my ass kicked way harder than that over the course of my life to let someone tell me that a bad idea is going to break me. But I got to recognize if it is a bad idea. I got to trust that guy, that sounding board, that person in my life enough.
Because he's part of your country club
mindset. Exactly. So you're like, okay, you know what? I trust that guy. You know, maybe opening up a chicken, pork, and ribs place in a Jewish neighborhood is not the right choice.
That's a great.
I'm not going to open up pulled pork in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
So like, you got to know what your ideas are good and bad, and you have to respect the people that are giving you that feedback. So keep that close. Once you get past that stage and you actually have an idea that's good, you have to break it down to a science. That idea, don't go on emotion. Entrepreneurs, successful people in life, they're not successful because they made emotional decisions. They're successful because they're calculated, because they're black and white, because they have a very clear-cut direction into what, into what makes them successful and what it takes to run a successful business. And if you're making emotional decisions that are based on how good it's going to feel to open that business, how my friends are going to be so proud of me. That's not the direction to go.
Emotions cloud judgment.
100%. So like you need to go like laser focus into understanding the science of what that project is and how to go about accomplishing it. And then you need to become a student of it. And a lot of times what you need to do is you need to see what your competition is immediately. So let's say you're going to open up that restaurant, right? The pork restaurant in the Jewish neighborhood.
Right.
You need to jump online and you find out how many of them out there are making it happen. Oh, you know, there is one. There's this one called, you know, blah, 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 blah. And you need to go to that website. You need to check them out. You need to go to their Instagram. You need to study what they're doing. Like there's nothing wrong with becoming a student of the game. And if the game is going to be a pork restaurant in a Jewish neighborhood, you need to be a student of that. You need to study it. You need to forever be a student of your craft. And so study it. And then after you've studied it, go into the place, call them. So I'm in culinary school and I have to do a paper on a restaurant. So I called up and I'm like, hey, I'm, you know, Joaquin, excuse me, I'm writing a paper on restaurants. I have a couple questions for the manager. That was such a huge light bulb moment of learning that I used that exact same thing hundreds of times throughout the rest of my career when opening other restaurants.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I'm like, you know, 28 years old, way out of college, looking to do some research. And I'm like, hi, I'm Bob Smith. I'm a culinary school kid and I have some questions. I wasn't Bob Smith. I wasn't a culinary school kid, but I had a lot of questions that I need to learn. How many covers do you say you do? Oh, on a Friday night or on a week? Oh, you this many? What's your check average per person? Oh, okay. Right there gives me their entire annual sales. Just from cover counts and price per person. And from those two numbers, I can start to break down their entire business. And I can compare it to my idea to see if financially it makes sense.
So put in massive amount of footwork.
Massive amount of footwork.
To research your call them your opponents, but those who share the same type of your competition. And see what leads to their success or not.
Yep. Fail fast. I love that one. Fail fast.
Fail fast.
Fail fast. Figure out if it's a failure fast. Don't waste time on figuring out if it's a failure. Failure, call it a failure, move on. Fail fast. Fail fast and move the heck on.
I think that goes side by side with the push the ego to the side.
Correct.
If not, failing fast would be a difficult thing to do.
Right, because your ego's holding on to it.
Exactly.
My very first business.
And your emotions as well, which we said don't let the emotions be part of the decision making.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so many reasons to hold on to something, and the main catalyst for all the reasons that you're holding on to something is ego. Ego is you don't want to tell your friends what happened to your lollipop idea? You had this great, sucker's lollipop idea. Oh man, I'm working in it still. It's in the back there, blah, blah. You come up with all the excuses instead of being like, you know what? It didn't work. On to the next one. Now I'm going to create an ice cream shop or whatever. Like you want to drag it out because you have all this judgment of people telling you or judging you on whether you were a success or a failure. You fail. It's okay. Like you can look at any entrepreneur that's worth their weight in salt and they will tell you how many times they failed with no ego hurt. Like you can get the most successful person that you could possibly find on this podcast, and that person will gladly talk to you about their entire failure history without and with zero sob story.
What do you recommend in regards to a personal loan through the bank, or
investors,
or a loan from a loan from a friend?
Okay.
Getting in with investors who maybe what do you call them, angel investors? Or
different types of investors.
Quiet investors, I don't know. Silent investors. Quiet, shut your ass up. You be quiet, you investor. Or partnership.
Great question. So every business, especially startup businesses in the first 5 years, is going to struggle financially. Okay? It doesn't even matter how deep your pockets is. You have, companies in Silicon Valley that are millions of dollars in debt monthly on their 8th year. Oh, we're going to be profitable in 2028.
Right.
You're just stacking debt, right? So the chance of any business coming out of the gate in the black from day one is slim to none. Okay. The chance of you having to put money back into the business.
In the black is even?
So you have in the black, it means make profit. Like when you
how come they don't say green?
Because accountants don't use green.
Okay.
Accountants use black and red.
Oh,
so
all right.
when you get your P&L at the end of the month, you only have two colors: black, which is all the money that's coming in, and red, which is all the money that's coming out.
Okay.
So you have in the red or in the black. Good question.
Okay.
You have in the red and in the black. So red is losing money, black is making money that's coming in. So, the chances of you coming out the gate making money on day one are slim to none. So it's the bank, when you when you haven't done well, you're going to go back to the bank and ask them for money. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? You're short on your payments.
Right.
So, excuse me. So getting a loan from a bank, a business loan from a bank, in my opinion, is not the way to go, because they're just less likely to hear your sob story and be okay with it and give you more money.
Right.
You take a personal loan from a friend or a family member and you tell them, listen, man, the AC broke. I had to put another $10,000 into it this month. I didn't see that coming. You got another $4,000 I can borrow. Mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin, uncle, good wealthy friend. They're going to be a little bit more understanding. Angel investor. Angel investors are smart, right? And they have more money than you. And so they're going to structure the operating agreement to basically be able to take over your business. That's how it's going to work, right? So unless you present them with a contract first, which is most likely going to go back to their lawyer anyways, who's going to chop the shit out of it and rewrite it the way he wants it. Now, you want his money? Well, here are his terms. He's got the leverage on you. You want his money, right? He's only kind of using you for sweat equity work and hoping to get X amount of dollars out of you at the end of the month or quarter or whatever it is. Right. But most of those times, those deals are structured in a way where when you default, he's taking over your lease. He's taking over your business. He's taking over your property. And somehow he or she is just going to turn around and like sell it and get their money back somehow. Right. It might be a loss for him, but then again, people who are like seriously wealthy are also looking for like nice ways to show loss. Right. Obviously, you want to make money.
Yeah.
You want to make money. You'd rather show loss.
But they know there's a way of writing it off and not taking the hit.
Correct.
The way they.
So that'll most likely be structured in their benefit. So you can find wealthy guys, wealthy investors who are willing to come in and put some money into your business. It kind of has to do with the millionaire mindset. I'm sorry, the country club mindset. Like, if you aren't in that type of country club, the likelihood of you finding angel investor and convincing them to give you some money is slim to none.
Which goes back to why you should have that mindset.
Which you should, and you need to hang around those people.
Exactly.
Like I've always said, I've had many boy, how am I going to tell this story very shortly and make it not sound horrible? Sometimes people want to just get married and be married and not work. And I've always told them that if you ever want to just get married and not work, you need to go to the wealthiest, most expensive restaurant and sit at the bar there, single, looking amazing on a Friday night, and find someone there. You're not going to do it at the gym, because if you spend $49 a month at the gym and he spends $49 a month at the gym, you're probably in the same exact demographic.
Right.
But if you go to Capitol Grill in Brickell and sit at the bar on a Friday night, the chances of you finding someone who doesn't spend $49, who goes to the Four Seasons at the gym, spends $389 at the gym, is going to make that a little bit better for you. So if you want to find friends or companionship, go to those type of areas, find those type of people. But remember that those type of people are way more on guard because they know that they're valued for their money. Right. Like, rich people are rich because of how much they save, not because of how much they spend.
Right.
They know they're looked at as dollar signs. They know they're looked at as like, hand out money. You think X person is the first person ever
exactly to try
money?
To no. The minute this person became wealthy, there were people coming out.
How many pitches do you think Mark Cuban hears a week?
Right.
Countless, not having nothing to do with Shark Tank.
Exactly, nothing to do with Shark Tank.
How many people are like, oh, my friend, like Mark Cuban's assistant is probably like, listen, I need you to present this to Mark Cuban. I had this great idea, okay. And he looks at it, or someone that like is in his trusted circle looks at it. Like, that's the challenge, right? If you're going to go the angel investor way, one, you need to run in that circle, and two, you need to be prepared for whatever that contract is. And you need to have the money financially in your operating agreement and a lawyer to get yourself a contract that you're not going to get screwed on the way out.
And what about partnership? Actual partnership.
I like that. That's where I'm at right now, right?
Right. And I remember that you brought up that, complete opposites in regards to not work ethic. But
correct. A lot of times, unless you've got a good amount of capital on your own or with the person that you're going to partner with, most likely you guys are starting as a side hustle. Right? We started Jealous Fork, the food truck, as a side hustle because we had TM Poets, right? So TM Poets was bringing in the money. We were taking the paychecks from TM Poets, and TM Poets had management, and we could basically use the free time, not at TM Poets, to side hustle Jealous Fork, to the point where now Jealous Fork makes way more money than TM Poets.
That's right.
You know, so you got to realize the person that you're partnering with, and sometimes you guys can both put sweat equity in. Sometimes you can both put equal amount of money in. It depends on what that dynamic is, and then you have to have that negotiation there. You know, like with Keno's Quest, you know, we both are putting in sweat equity, and I'm putting in some money, and he's putting in some money for some things, and so it works in a way that creates a dynamic where you feel it's 50-50, you know? So it just depends on the partnership is really about what you're each bringing to the table, and having that conversation of like, well, how much expertise are you bringing in? How much expertise am I bringing in? How much financially you bring in? How much am I bringing in? And you just have to have that conversation.
So you've flirted with all of these components, and you've had all these roles in opening businesses, and now your own business, and now you're going to open up another one, and things are going great. But you just mentioned something that's a great way to segue into it. Keno's Quest. You started your own YouTube channel. I told you right off rip when we had our luncheon, amazing production. It really seems like something right out of the Food Network. It really seems like it's Guy Fieri on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, or Anthony Bourdain. Probably more Anthony Bourdain, because you don't just focus on food the whole time. You know, you focus on whatever the business is, you know, the journey, the person who's involved in it, and you try to throw in a food component of some sort in there if it allows you to. The channel is growing.
Yeah.
I think in no time you'll be kicking ass and doing great. Tell everybody a little bit about that. Where can they find that at, and what's that channel about?
So yeah, that was maybe that's my like big exit strategy, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as I love all my businesses, I've realized after 15 restaurants, 20 plus years in the industry, that the fewest moving parts, the better. And so when you have over 50 employees, that's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of other people's lives that affect your lives. Mm-hmm. And so my business partner, Julian, what's going on, Julian, in Keno's Quest, he approaches me and is like, listen, Keno, I saw you doing on your own personal Instagram a little like food review. And I'm like, you're great. He's like, I love it. You ever think about doing this for real, like a legit thing? I'm like, dude, I'm not an influencer. Please. Like, I can't stand that. Like, it's not my thing. No. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. Like, I mean like long format YouTube. And I'm like, chewed on it, thought about it a few days. And I came back and I was like, okay, yes. If I can tell thought-provoking stories, if I can dive a lot deeper than like, this is the best burger that I've ever had.
Right.
This is the best pastelito in Miami. Like, I can't stand that.
Right.
You know, there's a place for it, and there's tremendous amount of success, and people look to Instagram and TikTok and YouTube for that. That's not my brand. That's not who I am. I don't feel like that's not me. But going into a Santeria store on Calle Ocho and asking questions about like if people come in asking for goats and where the bowl is that they sacrifice the blood and the incense and all the different colors of the necklaces, like that I like. I want to tell that story. You know, going to a fine dining restaurant and taking my viewers on an entire day through this, you know, fine dining restaurant from the very beginning of the day I get there through post-service, pre-service, the actual meal, on expo in the kitchen. That's the story that I want to tell. So we put that together. It's been almost a year. We actually got monetized about a month ago. So we got monetized in 16 videos, which is phenomenal. My understanding is that normally it's like 200 plus videos to get monetized.
And that means, like I told you, people are watching the entire video. Correct. That's awesome.
We have good watch hours. To be monetized, you needed 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. So we got that in 16 videos. So we feel very good about that. And as you said, and which I appreciate you giving me that compliment, yeah, the production level is high. That's Julian. He's phenomenal at his production, his cinematography, his videography. He's a student of the game, you know, and I appreciate that.
He sucks on camera. He freezes.
He's great. He's the like, again, hire someone, work with someone, partner with someone who's the opposite of you.
Right.
He's not the guy. And he told me, like, when we started, he's like, I'm not the guy on camera. It's not me. But I've always wanted to use my creative mind and my creative vision in a videography way. And so, we try to incorporate him into the episode every once in a while by letting him taste things and turning the camera around. It's always a good little awkward moment.
Right, yeah. I caught that, especially at the brewery.
The brewery one, yeah.
Brewery was a great one, too. And you got a bunch of them, man. I want everybody to please show your love, man. A lot of my followers are from South Florida. I mean, they're spread out throughout the nation. I even have followers in India. Shout out to India. But I mean, I appreciate all you followers, of course, in so many ways. But locally, a lot of, like, I would never be in a position that I intend to be on in the podcast world if it doesn't start locally first. And the same thing applies to almost all forms of business or journeys that you're doing. You need support from your friends, family, and then locally, and then that helps put you on a different spectrum so everybody else can see you. It's like everybody's building you up until other people can see you. So I definitely want everybody, watching, viewing, and listening, coming this far along in the podcast. Make sure you go show your love. So this is what we got right now that we can go visit and show love. We got Tea and Poets, which is located in
South Miami.
South Miami in Sunset Place. It's probably the best thing going on over there right now outside from, I know, dude. It's just crazy, bro. I hope they're going to get their shit together, but it's great to see that you've been holding it down that long. About to hit your 10-year anniversary in July. If you're in town and you want to go, stay in tune, follow him, and make sure you can go support the 10-year anniversary. And then we have Jealous Fork, located off of Bird Road and 142nd. 142nd Avenue. So now, I was just telling Keno off camera, I plan to go there with my mom. We haven't been able to visit the location yet. We're definitely going to go, especially with everything, the pancakes he cooked for me and this delicious, amazing tea that I know my mom's going to fall in love with. And he tells me, make sure you give me a call ahead of time because we're going to have to reserve. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? You have reservations? The place is jam-packed. You will sit there and wait for an hour or two on the weekends. So I want you guys to take that perspective as to, one, how successful, how great, how delicious it is, how many people love to go and support, but also so you be realistic and you don't get fucking upset with me or him in regards to, like, hey, I went to go show support and I had to wait for an hour and a half. Well,
make a reservation.
Make a reservation. Time it well, or go throughout the week where it might be a little bit easier. Throughout the week, there's no reservations?
You don't need them all the time.
It's good to do it, though. Be safe.
We're closed Monday. So Tuesday through Friday, you'll get in. It'll be fullish.
Business
busy.
Is so good. They're closed on Monday.
Yeah,
I love it, bro. Good for you guys. And then, of course, show your support by going to Keno's Quest on YouTube. You have it everywhere else as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know YouTube is where we get most of our support, but obviously if you're a Spotify person, whatever, you're going to enjoy more the video format, obviously, on YouTube. And to follow him on Instagram. Follow you guys on Instagram. Jealous Fork on Instagram?
Jealous Fork on Instagram. Tea and Poets on Instagram. Keno's Quest on Instagram. Yeah.
Man, this has been so fun, dude. My stomach is full. I'm fucking totally been caffeinated in so many different ways, and this has just been great to hear all this great stories and to see how far you come and how this started from me just going to your truck, getting a pancake, and you're like, hey, man, you mind if I get you on camera? I'm like, you mind if I get you on camera? And we both did the camera thing.
That was great, huh?
And when I did that, so many people were like, dude, I love that place. Oh, yeah, I've been there. And I'm like, damn, everybody else knows about this place except me. Well, now I'm in. Now I'm following. And fucking years later, dude, that was COVID. That was pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
And then here we are years later, man. So I appreciate you, Keno. I swear to God,
Wes,
I do,
thank
brother.
Thank you for having me on. This was a delight. I really appreciate you, and what you're doing here is amazing. I love your setup.
Thank you so much, brother. This has been one of the best podcasts, man, especially with all the great treatment. Now we got to go clean dishes and shit right now. People forget we got to go do the dirty part. Guys, keep showing your love. I appreciate y'all support. Make sure you show your support and love for Keno, and as long as Jealous Fork as well. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Peace.
Peace. Bye, guys.